Hello my friends, welcome to my review of the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palettes. I got some things I believe in and some things I don't believe in, and I am looking forward to sharing those thoughts with you. This is the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palette. It is limited edition from Tarte. You can get this on Tarte.com, you can get it at Sephora.com, you can get it at Ulta.com. I'm not sure if they're selling it in stores, but I would imagine that they are. Those are the only places I personally know you can get it, but when you're watching this, there may be other places. If you do know of another place you can get this palette, definitely leave it in the comments below and I'll add it to the video description. Before we get started with this review, I do want to thank the people that purchased this palette. I have been doing super chats in my weekly chats, and people have chosen of their own free will to donate toward the channel. So the people whose names are scrolling, they are the ones who purchased this. I had bought the Too Faced Natural Love palette, even though I had decided I wasn't going to buy it. I decided to buy it, and then this collection came out, and I was like, and then I was like, oh yeah, I could use the money from the super chat. So that is why this video exists. So I want to thank them so much for the donation so that I could review this for you. If you've never been to one of my review videos before, they are very long. They have lots of information for people that want a lot of different information. So I want to provide for as many people as possible, but that means that you may not be interested in this entire video. So that's why I put skip ahead buttons down in the description. So there's timestamps. You just need to click on those timestamps in order to get exactly where you want to go. So if you're not interested in the swatches, you can skip ahead to the next section. So in this palette, you get 10 eyeshadows and 1 highlighter in the center. Each one of these eyeshadows is 1.1 grams of product. The highlighter in the center is 3 grams of product. Things you need to know about Tarte as a brand. Tarte does say that they are cruelty-free and they are certified cruelty-free by PETA. Tarte's statement on their website says that Tarte Cosmetics is a cruelty-free cosmetics line. Tarte makeup and skincare is never tested on animals. But something you need to know if you are a cruelty-free consumer is that in 2014, Tarte was bought by a company called Co's. They also own Rimmel London. And Co's is not a cruelty-free company. They are a Japanese-based company. When Tarte was bought by Co's, they did put a statement on their Facebook because there was concern about their cruelty-free status, and this is what they said. We are a cruelty-free company and will remain one. Co's is completely on board with our position as an eco-friendly, cruelty-free company and has given Tarte such a great opportunity to grow and expand around the world. So depending on your level of cruelty-free, you may say that they are, you may say that they aren't. PETA says that they are, but their parent company is not, so it's up to you whether you consider them to be cruelty-free or not. In the description of this palette, it says it's formulated without parabens, mineral oil, phthalates, sodium lauryl sulfates, and gluten, but this is not vegan. There is carmine in some of the shadows. Carmine is made from crushed beetles, and it's funny because I've been getting some comments lately when we talk about carmine in cruelty-free brands. Well, isn't crushing beetles like against animals? But that's not what cruelty-free means. Cruelty-free means that it's not tested on animals. It doesn't mean that there aren't cruel things happening to things like bugs in order to make this. So if you are anti the crushing of bugs, then you do not want to buy this eyeshadow palette. Last thing I want you to know about Tarte is that their products are made in the USA. So now let's talk about value a bit. So as I mentioned before, the eyeshadows, the 10 of them, are 1.1 grams, which leads them to being 11 grams total in eyeshadow. Then you have your 3-gram highlighter in the center. That leads us to 14 grams total of product. It is a $40 product, so that gives us $2.86 per gram, which is a little bit more expensive for a Tarte product, but not much. Tarte is one of the least expensive eyeshadow brands in that kind of realm. They're less expensive than Urban Decay. They're way less expensive than Anastasia. They're less expensive than Lorac. They're about the same as Too Faced as far as price per gram. When you compare it to the Tarte Tartelette palette and the Tartist Pro palette, this one is the most expensive per gram, but not by a whole lot, with the Tartelette coming in at $2.56 a gram and the Tartist Pro coming in at $2.65 a gram. The packaging for this, it is a metal packaging and it has a clasp closure. It's not a magnetic closure, it's a clasp closure. It has a circular mirror inside, and fingerprints collect on this relatively easily. Dust gets everywhere, but it is very, very easy to clean off if you do want to clean it off. So now we are going to go ahead and get into the swatches. We're gonna do both brush swatches and finger swatches, so we'll go ahead and get into those right now.
Welcome, my friend, to the swatches. So you're going to open it up with this clasp closure, and inside there are your 10 eyeshadows and your 1 highlighter in the center. You go ahead and swatch the first 4 kind of brownish tone shades. And the first one is called Crystal, and that one actually, when it swatches, has a little bit of a pink shift to it. Pixie is a little more of a true pink, and then Myth is your matte brown shade that can be used for a transition for some people, and then Magic. Now this is the Makeup Geek foiled brush. I've got some critiques on the brush that I use, and I wanted to make sure I used a brush specifically meant for foiled style eyeshadows. So as you can see, these are very light on my skin tone. Except for that last one, Magic, is a little bit deeper. Close-up of the swatches shows that pinkish purple shift in Crystal and the more true pink Pixie. You can see Myth doesn't look super pigmented, but it does make for a nice transition color for a lot of skin tones, not for everybody. And then Magic is really gorgeous. Here's the wipe test. This is supposed to simulate what happens through wear time or if you rub your eyes, things like that. And as you can see, Myth and Magic are the only ones that are really still around. Going into the second 4, we have Wings, Marvel, Trance, and Fairy. Wings is gorgeous. I really love Wings. Marvel also performs very, very well. Trance I haven't used as much, to be honest with you, and Fairy is the one that I want to love but keeps disappointing me. So Wings swatches, okay, it's pretty good. You can work with it, it's nice. I really do love Marvel. I wish I had used Marvel in the tutorial because it is really, really beautiful, especially as an inner corner highlight. Trance, I haven't used Trance. I'm sorry, I haven't used it, but it swatches okay. I don't know, it just doesn't call to me as much as the other shades. And Fairy, I keep trying with Fairy. I keep trying because I want to love it, but it kind of grays out on the eye. Here are the up-close swatches. And you can see that Wings has a little bit less of a shine than some of the other shades. Now with the wipe test, you can see that this set of 4 hangs around a lot better than the first set, probably just due to their natural deepness, but then when you look at Marvel, Marvel's still around and that's a pretty light shade. So you can see clearly here, my pointer finger has Mystic and my middle finger has Dream on it. And it's interesting that in the swatches in the video, sorry for the blur right there, in the swatches of the video, it seems like that Mystic is a little bit more mermaid looking, where Dream is a little frosty. Where in person I feel like it's the opposite. It's very strange. I had to go back and watch it a few times just to make sure I'd gotten it right. But as you can see, there really isn't a whole lot of difference between the 2 shades, which makes me sad because I feel like they could have given us a deeper blue for Dream, and they look quite different in the pan. They just aren't showing up differently on the skin. It's the same on the eyes as it is on the arm. Now with the wipe test, you can see they both stick around actually pretty well. So it's really just that those first 3, Crystal, Pixie, and Myth, don't stick around for that. Now let's check out the highlighter. Sorry again for the blurriness. It's going to come back in a second. I'm using a highlighter brush there. And I wanted to show you how it would apply using a brush as well. And you can see it just kind of gives a subtle shift. It's just a subtle shine. You can see it better on my cheeks in the tutorial portion, but it is, you can definitely see that shine and you can see the iridescence. Now with the wipe test, you can see it's gone. There's no highlight left. Lasting power on this highlight is just not good.
Now that you've seen the swatches, let's go ahead and get into ingredient analysis. So the first thing you need to know is that about half this palette is not lip safe, actually a little more than half the palette. The ingredients in here that are not lip safe are chromium hydroxide greens, chromium oxide greens, ferric ferrocyanide, and ultramarines. I cannot guarantee that the 4 that I'm going to show you are lip safe, but they are definitely not lip safe. So we've got Marvel, which is this greenish one here, this brick looking one called Wings, and then these 2 down here, which are called Crystal and Pixie. The rest of them have ingredients that are not allowed to be in lip products according to the FDA. There are 2 ingredients in here that are irritation concerns for some people. The first one is glycerol behanate. And then the last one is the phenoxyethanol, which is in every single eyeshadow palette that I've ever reviewed on this channel and done an ingredient analysis. It was a replacement for parabens when people started freaking out over parabens and didn't want parabens. So now phenoxyethanol is in everything, and that one is an irritation concern for some people, but I've been led to believe through my research that it's less people than that are allergic to parabens. Talc is also an ingredient in every single one of these shadows, and sorbic acid is in only 2 of the shadows, and that is an allergen for some people. One thing I do want to mention is this does have the same vanilla scent as some other Tarte eyeshadow palettes. I forgot to mention that, but it does. So if you like that vanilla scent, that is in here. If you don't like it, it's in here. But other than that, we're good for ingredients as far as my research goes. We've gone through a lot of information, so now I want to show you how these products perform on the eyes. The struggle was real today with this eyeshadow palette. I actually started a look, hated it, took it off, started another look, hated it, took it off, and then finally ended up with the look that I have today. And I'm not gonna edit that completely out because I want you to see the struggle. I want you to see me as a makeup enthusiast, not a makeup artist, and what I went through to try to get a good look out of this palette. Maybe it's just me and the choices that I don't know how to make apparently, or I'll tell you more about my thoughts after the demo. So just go ahead and watch and then we'll discuss.
All right, y'all ready for attempt 1? This is the Ulta eye primer. It replaced the Urban Decay Eden in my life. It is my current favorite eye primer just because it's cheaper than Eden. It doesn't cover quite as well as Eden, but it's still good. As I mentioned earlier, that this palette definitely needs some mattes to go with it, so I broke into the Tarte Pro palette. I do feel like the lid shade was way too dark that I used. It's been a while since I've used that palette, so when I threw on the transition shade, it didn't quite work as well as I had hoped. Now going into this light blue shade, it takes a bit to pack on. I am using a Makeup Geek foiled brush there. And then I start layering on the darker blue shade, and I notice right away that the contrast between those two shades, Mystic and Dream, just really, you can't see it. It's kind of crazy. So those are the 2 finger swatches next to each other. Finger swatches, you can tell the difference, but on the eye, you just can't. Now I tried to go into Fairy, which is the purple, and it's not necessarily lighter than the other 2, but it just not working. There isn't enough tone contrast there. So we go ahead and put the primer back on. Let's try again with the lid shade. This time I went a little lighter on the lid, but still probably not light enough. Going into the transition shade, which is called Myth, you can see there still isn't enough contrast between the lid and the crease. So if you're going to use Myth as a transition shade, you definitely want to make sure that your lid shade contrasts with it, which it does not here. I get it on the 3rd try though. So I'm going to try Trance in the inner corner as kind of an inner corner highlight. I don't know what I was thinking. Totally didn't work. Figured I'd try the purple again on the lid, and still not super poppy. Not as poppy as I hoped it would be. Trying to deepen up the outer corner with Magic because the purple didn't work as an outer corner, but as you can see, it's still not dark. Outer corners in my looks that I like to do are dark. So that did not work, so let's go ahead and try number 3. Back in with the Ulta eye primer again. And I'm noticing that I have a ton of fallout on my cheeks from the 2 previous applications. So you definitely want to do your concealer and your foundation after you use this palette. It's just difficult to keep the fallout away. I finally nailed the lid color from the Tarte Pro palette, yay! And you can see how Myth definitely contrasts with that, which is what I was going for in the first place. So I'm abandoning the purple color for now, and we've got Pixie all over the lid. You can see it is just not showing up. It's not as shimmery as it is in the swatch. It's not as beautiful as it is in the swatch. It's just not going on. So we go back to good old reliable purple because I do love purple so much, but it's just, Pixie just can't keep up with Fairy the purple. It just can't. It's not working. So I'm trying to go back and forth, but it's not working. So we'll go ahead and try a little bit of Magic up in the crease, and it is a little bit darker up in the crease, but again, not a big contrast. Going down, I figure, well, let's try some fingertip application of Fairy and of Pixie to see if that helps. And I'll tell you, it does help a little bit. And now I'm just trying to blend those two together to get some kind of gradation. And then since nothing else seems to be light enough, we're gonna go for the highlighter shade in the middle, which is called Believe. And I still honestly don't really like this. So we're gonna try to brighten up the inner corner a little more with Marvel, which I had success with in the past. Still not really great. Going in back into the Tarte Pro palette, trying to deepen up the look just a little bit, just to add some kind of complexity to it, because the look is completely falling flat. Going back in with the purple and with the pink, trying to make sure that my crease color doesn't overlap over top of my lid color, because I do want my lid to pop. Now back in for that brow bone highlight, last dip in to try to blend all of this together. Oh, nope, one more dip. We gotta go into the lower lash line. So again, Fairy, the purple, down on the outer corner, and we're gonna do Believe, which is the highlight, in the inner corner, the center to the inner corner. So now this is the look with lashes and liner. I'm still really not happy with the way this look came out. It is not poppy enough. It is not what I expected. So now I just want to show you how I tackle that fallout when I don't think I'm gonna have fallout, and then I do. So I'm taking the Tarte Shape Tape and just blending that in with the Moda Prismatic brush and just kind of trying to wipe away some of that glitter. And it does kind of cover it up, which is nice. And now I'm just setting it with some Tarte setting powder, and it worked out really well covering up the fallout. I feel it didn't get rid of it completely, but if you're in a pinch, it works. Again, really not a fan of this eye look, but we're gonna go with it because I don't want to do it a fourth time. Going in with the highlighter, I really do like this highlighter as far as the initial look of it. It doesn't have a long lasting power, but initially I think it's very pretty. It's not super glowy, but it's glowy enough to give that skin that kind of lit from within kind of look.
So that's what happened in the application today. It was not a smooth process. Okay. The first time I used this eyeshadow palette, I used this shade right here. This one is in the shade Marvel. This one I used on my inner corner, and it creased pretty bad. I did do a Instagram story on it, but I didn't save the Instagram story, so I don't have evidence of it. But if you follow me on Instagram, you hopefully saw that. I used that in the inner corner, and then I believe, if I remember right, I used the purple shade all over the lid. I can't remember exactly the shades I used, but I remember that this shade in particular creased on me, but I really felt like the look came out really beautiful. I did do kind of a wear test on it on the Instagram story, and they kind of mushed together over the day, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of okay. I used this one other time before this video, and I stuck to more of the neutrally looking shades, and I felt like the look came out nice. I did have some trouble getting separation of color, and I think that's the big problem with this palette, is the separation of color. There's a lot of light to mid-tone shades and not a lot of darker shades. Like this one appears to be dark, but it's not when you put it on the eye. So you really need to think about this as a supplemental palette. Tarte themselves on their website tell you to put on a nude colored base before you put on the palette. And that's why I kept doing that in the video, is because Tarte says you're supposed to do that. So that's what I did. So I feel like this is a great companion palette to the Tarte Pro or some other palette that has a lot of neutrals in it. Because what you can do is you can use the neutrals and then use one, let me repeat that, use one of these shadows to make it pop. You may be able to use two. If you're talented, maybe you can get more than two to work. But me personally, like, I feel like I can't use more than one of these shimmery shadows together, or else it looks like a hot mess. It just looks bad. They just don't like blend into each other well. There's no gradation. They have trouble. And I think that a lot of that has to do with it. They're just all kind of the same level of lightness. When I put out on social media that I purchased this palette, I was asked a lot whether it was the same formula as the shimmery ones that are in the Tarte Pro. These guys right here, I was asked if it was the same formula, because when I reviewed this, which I will link below, I talked about how much I loved this formula, and I will tell you that it is not the same formula, and I am quite disappointed because I really like that. I did an entire breakdown. Let me show you what I did. So right here, Here's my check marks. So I've listed all the ingredients. My printer was running out of ink, so that's the first page. So these are all the shades in the Make Believe in Yourself palette, and then these are the Tarte Pro palette. If you could see all of the ingredients, you would see that there are a lot of added ingredients that are in these that are not in the shimmery shadows in the Tarte Pro. One of those added ingredients is an ingredient that they've also added in the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette, which is cornstarch. That is not in the Tarte Pro. It's not in any of the other Tarte shadows. And another thing that's in here that's also in, I believe, in the Anastasia is boron nitride. Now, I don't know how all these things all work together to make good eyeshadow, but I'm just saying that those ingredients are here. They're not in here in the shimmery shadows. So that may be making a difference as far as how they perform. Now, as far as the highlight goes, it does come off very, very white. So if you are of a deeper skin tone, this may look a little too white on your cheeks. I don't know though, because I don't have a deeper skin tone, so I don't know. I would definitely look for reviews and swatches on someone of a deeper skin tone, but because it is so white, that's what it leads me to believe. It's like a white iridescent. Lasting power on it is okay. Lasted about 5 hours on the cheek before it was completely gone, so that's gonna feel about that. If you really like shine and you don't like a lot of colors, there are some more natural looking colors in here with the shine in them. So there are some options for some more wearable looks. The shine doesn't come off as shiny on the eyes as I thought it would. So like for the Violet Voss Holy Grail palette, let me swatch Toffee for you. It just feels creamier, where this one feels chunkier. Let's put it next to Wings. Those are not even close to the same shade, but that's the closest I can get. Same thing with the Color Rain Queen of Hearts palette. Like, let's do Your Majesty. This one's really chunky in comparison. And you can just see the intensity just isn't as much as those two. I know, again, I know they're not dupes. I'm just trying to show you the formula difference. It's just not quite as intense. Okay, and then swatching next to Ethereal from the Tarte Pro palette, I'm going to put that right next to it. It's still more intense. So final thoughts on this. Who is this eyeshadow palette for? It's for people that really like poppy eyeshadows, but don't need them to be insanely intense. If you're a pro, you might be able to get it to work better than I did. I had a lot of trouble with getting more than 2 shadows to work in a look, but maybe you can do better than I can. I wouldn't recommend this for beginners, and it is fun to play with. It's not a not recommend, it's just I'm a little disappointed in that I wanted it to be perfect, and it's not perfect. I wanted the shadows to be able to play better together. Like when I think of like Kat Von D eyeshadows, how they play so nicely together, and you know, the indie brands, you know, the Juvia's Place and the Colored Rains of the world, the Makeup Geek eyeshadows, I mean, those play so nicely together, and it's just a disappointment when Tarte's eyeshadows don't blend as nicely into each other. So for me, I'm happy to have it because I think it'll be fun to play with every once in a while. They do say that you can use these as eyeliners as well. I haven't personally tried that, but I think that'll be a lot of fun. So I am going to keep it, but it's not an enthusiastic keep. It's not an enthusiastic recommend. It's just a recommend for certain people. And if this calls to you, again, not a bad palette. If it doesn't call to you, don't feel bad about passing on it. So that's my review of the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palette. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, definitely make sure you hit the subscribe button for future videos. I appreciate you being here so much. Mad love, and I'll see you in a video soon.